At the outset, I welcome all of you to this crucial international webinar on India and West Asia in the shifting global order. And with Gulreza as the key resource person, I can assure you of nothing but an exciting and an enriching session this morning, inshallah. We also look forward to having all your active participation as we go along. My name is Ronak Shahi. I'm a senior research fellow here at the host department. I asked our chairman, Azhar sir, to kindly present the welcome address.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the opportunity to listen to our senior colleague, Professor Muhammad Gulrez. He needs no introduction, but to revise our memories and for many of the new students, he has been teaching for about 4 decades, teaching, guiding research and doing research for about 4 decades. He has been Vice Chancellor of the University, Pro Vice Chancellor of the University, Dean of the Faculty, Chairman of the Department twice, and he has served abroad also. He was ICCR invited scholar in Sri Lanka, and he also served in Africa. He was there as a professor also, and he served there in some United Nations agencies also. He has been to the Indian chair at the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, and also he has been professor in the Department of Political and Administrative Sciences at the National University of Rwanda, Africa, consultant and researcher of Good Governance Program for the Poverty Reduction Strategy Project, Government of Rwanda. He serves on the International Advisory Board of Asian Review, Institute of Asian Studies at Bangkok's Chulalongkorn University. He has been a member of Academic Forum at the Asia Pacific Observatory in Montevideo, Uruguay. His previous affiliations include the Foreign Policy Analysis Program, Marshon Center, Ohio State University, Columbus, Ohio, and the Muslim Politics Project Council on Foreign Relations Program, New York, United States of America. He has been working on confidence building measures, focusing on bilateral and multilateral peace processes. Professor Gulrez has attended, of course, seminar and workshop all over the world. And today we are going to listen to a scholar who is an internationally renowned scholar, and I hope we all enjoy it academically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azhar sir. As scholars and observers of global politics, we all largely understand that the geopolitical order of the world today is in a very volatile state. The rules-based order and the liberal international institutions are failing to serve its purpose. American control in global politics is declining. Russia has re-emerged after a gap since the Cold War. China is rising as a key player, and the global south is collectively pushing for multipolarity. In the midst of this global tussle is India's foreign policy, trying to make a fine balance between its regional compulsions and global geopolitical ambitions. However, when we think of the future order, there is anything but clarity or certainty. That said, India as a player and West Asia as a region are nonetheless going to be key determining factors. And therefore, from this part of the globe, it is important to understand how India perceives the world, what are its interests and challenges in West Asia and beyond in the region, to what extent can global events shape India's own foreign policy, and what would be its position and role in any kind of arrangement of the future global order. And who better than Gulreza could we have had to help us find an insight to these questions? Azhar sir did mention sir's few credentials. It's impossible to list them all out here in his introduction. But one thing that I'd definitely like to mention is, in complement to his illustrious profile, Sir is popularly known for being an able administrator, a fine academician, a brilliant teacher, an extremely kind professor, and an all-weather friend, philosopher, and guide to his scholars. May I now request Gulrez sir to please come forward for his address.
Professor Muhammad Azhar, Dean, Faculty of International Studies, Professor Javed Iqbal, dear colleagues and very dear students. It's indeed my privilege that I have been given this opportunity to speak before you about a very important topic of topical importance, that is India and West Asia in the shaping global order. As we all know, that foreign policy is a work through which a country is progressing or propagating its interest, both in terms of internal alignments as well as its external relations with other nations and the world. As the theme of today's discussion is shifting global order, India and West Asia, I would like to draw your attention at two levels. One is that, in what way the foreign policy of India evolved, because India, as of now, trying to become the third largest economy to the tune of 5 trillion economy by the year 2030, and it is also posing to become the first economy when we would be completing 100 years. That is 2047, this 30 trillion economy. Right now we are 3 trillion economy, and the way India is progressing, foreign policy has been used as an instrument to work at both the levels, domestic level as well as of international level. So it is with this background, I would like to draw your attention that at 67th year, India is standing tall. On 75th of India's independence, we were celebrating G20 summit. Very successfully we organized that. We also organized Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, and that was a ground to project India's image abroad. But as a student of international studies, if we try to look India of 1947 and during 1960s, when India was not in a position to be self-sustained, even we had to import grains or wheat from United States of America. PL 480 was a grain used to come from United States of America that used to be red in color. And we largely depended because our agriculture was in dismay and we were not in a position to feed our own people. Later on, America written off all these debt we had, which was in tune of $160 billion, and there's lots of criticism also that Americans has sent a wheat which was not up to the mark for a human being to consume. Now from 1947 to 2024, the world has changed beyond recognition. We could not see that, in the international forum, in case we try to find out from bilateral world, when the world was divided into two power blocks soon after World War II, and during the Cold War years, there was a illusion of going for a multipolar world and then again coming to a unipolar America, and the bipolar world, China and America are taking strides. So, where India stands in between? India in 1960s pursued the policy of non-alignment, and for a very long time, we stick to that policy. But having said that, India's policy of non-alignment was not the policy of not taking sides. It was also not the policy of neutrality. It was a policy of taking sides of those who are deprived, or those powers who are not in a position to support themselves. A kind of a balance of power approach which Great Britain used to have during World War II. I was seeing the Munich Security Conference dialogue, in which our foreign minister said, in the present context, that India is not Europe. India's problems are different to that of Europe, and what the Europe thinks may not necessarily be our concern. That was in context of our support to Ukraine. And what is in our interest, we will support and we will forward carry that policy after even that. Backed by active diplomacy of the present government under Prime Minister Modi, foreign policy has been instrumental for meeting both India's domestic priorities as well as of its foreign concern. We have highlighted the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India. We are working in a large way for supporting MSMEs. We are also helping unicorns. We are around 100 unicorns at the moment working in the country, and more than 70 lakh MSMEs operating in these countries, and around 60% of India's production is coming from this MSMEs, micro, medium and large enterprises. We want to develop an economic ecosystem which is sustainable, which is durable, and which may not affect India's economy in case there is a global clash of global economy. We could survive 2010 Dubai crash because our economy was self-sustained. We were not linked to all the international open markets, so that we could survive, and we could also survive very well during the COVID pandemic. In South Asia, having a population of 1.8 billion people, in case as a student of international relations, you can find out in the map the countries of SAARC. No two countries can be accessed directly, or except Afghanistan. All these countries, in case one want to visit a citizen of Bangladesh to Pakistan or Myanmar to Nepal, one has to cross a border of India. So you can see the geographical location of India. That in case India is being blamed that it is playing a big brotherly role which is not acceptable, which may be a kind of a challenge to the sovereignty of the nations. But we say that we are working as a responsible elder brother, and our commitment is for the welfare of our neighboring countries also. What we have done, there are certain examples in the recent past. When there was an economic crash of economy of Sri Lanka in 2020-23, we extended $1 billion aid, the highest line of credit by the government of India was given to Sri Lanka. We are also creating a South Asian energy grid, taking consideration of Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh which will, be helpful. We would also be taking electricity from them, and we would also be supplying electricity to them in case they would require this. We are strengthening ties with Central Asian countries on connectivity, as you all know. Government kept channels open with Taliban regime in Afghanistan. We have opened a cultural and economic consulate in Afghanistan. We also talking to the Myanmar junta, which was branded as a terrorist, and other countries were not going to Myanmar. We are still keeping our options open. Outside the region, in case you see that in 2022, this time India's foreign policy is not, it is aggressive foreign policy. It is believed in the powers of corridor that in case India wants to be a elevated, a strong power, it has to exert its foreign policy. We cannot be a neutral, non-aligned country for a very long time. We have to make our presence felt. In case we are a strong power, we should somewhere put down our weight. So what we have done, that in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, for the security, we created and got the membership of Quad. Quad is a membership of 4 countries: Australia, Japan, USA, and India. That grouping came into being in 2022. Initially, it is an economic grouping. It is also asking for sustainability, for green energy and electricity and other. But in an overall perspective, this is against the expansion in the South China Sea by China. So we, for the first time, went beyond our borders in the international arena, and we made that, Quad. Our membership in IPSA, India, Brazil, South Africa Forum, long back, and our membership in BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and later on in 2010, South Africa joined, so South Africa. Now, this was a time that India was, and these countries were expecting that there is a much more dominance of the West. And there was a call. Call was that rising of the rest. These are some of the terminology used, Try to make use of some terminology so this makes your, articles or your speeches, somehow more focused. Rising of the rest. What is rising of the rest? You look here that East Asian tigers, the way the economy of the ASEAN countries is growing. So we have made look East policy. That India not only look West policy or look Middle East policy, we are also, focusing ourselves look East policy. So our students, Thai students, those who were here, you would be happy to learn that they are making a very good studies that, how ASEAN countries can make good relations with West Asian countries with their background of West Asian studies, which they have learned during their study, during their stay in here. Sometimes Quad is called by China as India's or Asia's NATO. They are not happy. They say that it is not a very healthy grouping. But in BRICS, now in case you will watch and read newspaper, you will find that there are 20 countries, those who have applied to become member of BRICS. Now India has invited Iran. Iran is now a member, with China and Russia and Iran in South Asia. it is being faced as a challenge to Europe as well as to America, that something, because now we also created a BRICS bank, which is having its headquarters in China. India has also reflected its presence in the Navy because, as you all know, 50% of India's export and 30% of its import is routed through Red Sea. And with OBOR, One Belt, One Road initiative of China, which is also called String of Pearls, starting from South China Sea to they are having their bases in Djibouti and across Red Sea. India is concerned that its trade route, which is also called the lifeline of India's trade route or trade route from going east to west, happens to be the Red Sea. As you might be remembering, once Colonel Jamal Abdul Nasir blocked the Suez Canal, it was a very big blow, because once a connection from Red Sea to Suez Canal and then entering to Mediterranean Sea, in case Suez Canal is closed by Egypt, because it's a private canal, the route becomes 3,000 kilometers longer, and this is not economically very viable. Then a ship has to pass through the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, and then reaching to the Pacific Ocean. So India is now sending its own ships, safeguarding its own ships going full of or coming full of oil and going full of goods in the Red Sea. You will be surprised to know that as of now, India is the largest contingent of sending marine ships and the pilots for marine ships all over the world. That is why sometimes, when the ships are attacked, you might be reading in the newspaper that, India rescued 10, 15 naval commanders or, pilots from the ship, because, India is now having a full-scale naval exercises. It is having naval exercises with Oman and UAE also, which we will cover later on this part. India signed trade agreement with UAE, which is known as FTA, Foreign Trade Agreement, Australia, and it hopes to progress our talks with Sri Lanka, EU, Great Britain, GCC and Canada. Once the FTA is signed, it gives, at least border access to the goods coming from one country to another country. There are reduction of tariff barriers. This will not only help India to export its goods in a large number to all these destinations, but we will also receive medicines, highly sophisticated medical equipments, pharmaceuticals, rough minerals in a very competitive price from all these countries. Currently, India has made exchange of trade in Indian rupees with Iran, UAE, Japan, Turkey, Korea, South Asian countries through currency. The State Bank of India, Reserve Bank of India, RBI, and the Reserve Bank of all these countries, they have this kind of arrangement. I think Professor Azhar, an economist, will be able to sometimes throw more light on that, as to how this currency exchange is made. At G20, India highlighted climate change, transportation, women-led development, multilateral economic forums, green energy, and climate finance. I think we should also be very sensitive about this term climate finance, because the third world countries or the developing countries, They always say to the developed world that we are at the taking off stage. You are already in a saturation point of your industrialization. And the pollution you have created across the globe is much more than we are now started. And in case we will mitigate our use of carbon, we will not have more industry, it will further damage our economic growth. So at least you give us financing. This is the responsibility of advanced countries, that you finance of the loss of not opening industry in the respective developing countries, so that the loss can be compensated. The war with Ukraine saw the government spell out its version of non-alignment. How? It sought to keep a balance in the growing polarization between USA, European Union and Russia. India was the only country which was simultaneously taking oil despite American sanctions from Ukraine, from Russia. It was also taking, because as you all know, our sunflower oil, I do not know as to what is the current situation, but 80%, to the tune of 80%, used to come from Ukraine, because sunflower is the main crop of Ukraine, and wheat. So we, at the same time, taking oil from Ukraine and petrol oil from Russia, despite American sanctions, and we were also keeping our relations robust with the United States of America. India is opposed to, with China, our relations have been topsy-turvy, We are not, there is a hard push in Doklam, as we all know. Somebody asked, how many countries, China is having problem with other countries, with India. This is an anecdote. So they say, it is right now with 14 countries. So China's border problem is going on with 14 countries. So our relations are not on a very robust scale at the moment. We are opposed to OBOR, One Belt, One Road project. We are also against CPEC, China-Pakistan economic corridor, which Pakistan is financing. Recently, in 2016, when Prime Minister Modi visited Iran, we made a pact of $500 million on Chabahar port, because India wants to have its access through Iran to Central Asia because of our not very congenial relations with Afghanistan, and Gwadar port of Pakistan is also not available to us. Now coming to Gulf, because this happens to be the area of our focus, of interest. British India's imperial interest in the Gulf were determined, pursued, and administered from Bombay Presidency. With the countries of Gulf, the Britishers were not having any office. Bombay Presidency was the office from where all the control of the Gulf region, of the colonies or the countries which were under British control. Earlier, I was working on a project which is still live. You can imagine Yemen, a country like Yemen, because it was also under the British protectorate. A country like Yemen is not having its own history in their archives. Because once you try to understand your history, naturally you go to National Archives of India and you will find all the documents available and study them. Yemen is a country, because I was meeting their diplomats and they were telling, sir, we do not have our own history with us. All our history are in National Archives in India, in New Delhi, because it was governed by British Protectorate. And they and government of India are trying to make a proposal through which at least the concerned documents of Yemen may be transferred to them through photocopying or whatever arrangement government of India make with the country. You can imagine a country without its own history. You can imagine a people, the plight of Palestine is such a pathetic condition that a country, suddenly one fine morning somebody asks you that you do not have any country, this gives a very hollow concept. So a country without its own history is also can be understood in the similar lines. Indian rupee was the legal tender in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and crucial states now known as UAE. Till early 60s, हिंदुस्तान का रुपया इन सारी गल्फ कंट्रीज में चलता था. तो अगर आप इन केस यू विजिट दुबई और शारजा और वेयर एवर कतर, कुवैत, you will notice that the elderly people, they all aware about Indian rupee, because that was that legal tender. हमारी करेंसी वहाँ पे जाती थी. In UAE alone, 3.5 million Indians are residing. 7 स्टेट हैं, 7 crucial states हैं UAE में, which came into being in 1971. दुबई, कतर, बहरैन, दुबई, शारजा, रसूल खैमा, अजमान, फुजैरा, और नाम बोलिए, अबू धाबी, और हो गए सारे हैं. So these 7 crucial states are there, which came into being in 1971. 3 very small crucial state is a very small term, because we say kingdom when the king is there, then sheikhdom where the sheikh is ruling. The crucial states are basically sheikhdoms, and they are coming together, and their collective union is known as confederation. Now, what is confederation? India is quasi-federation. Indian constitution says that we are quasi-federation. Quasi-federation means the role of center is more tilted towards centralization as compared to states. Confederations are those states which are coming together on their own sweet will. कि चलो हम सब छोटे हैं, we can join a club, but it is our sovereign right whenever we will feel like we will depart ourselves. जब भी हमारा मन करेगा हम अलग हो जाएंगे, हम पे कोई जोर नहीं होगा. This example you can also take from former USSR. Why it happened that when there was a dismemberment of former USSR, there was no bloodshed, because no country will ever allow a section of its population to secede. Right to secession कोई भी मुल्क allow नहीं करता. Now what is right to secession? That you can break away from the sovereign territory of a nation. Now, why it happened that 15 states of former USSR, I'm just deviating slightly, but I'll come to that. Why there was no bloodshed? Because when the constitution of USSR was imposed under Lenin, they were believed under the principles of self-determination of nationalities. Now, what does it mean, self-determination of nationalities? Each and every 15 republics of USSR were having their constitution in their own specific language. So Uzbek, Tajik, Kyrgyz, Azeris, every republic was having the constitution in their own specific language. And on this very clause, self-determination of nationalities, when they decided to break away, there was no constitutional hurdle and they broke away. And after that, they make CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States of 12 states, which is still working. Anyway, So, and you will also appreciate that there are around 15,000 flights only to UAE going every week from India. Every week, 15,000 flights are going and coming to UAE. This means, our diaspora, a very strong diaspora, is there, and rough estimate says that around 8.5 million Indians, because exact statistics maybe sometimes somewhere I am reading is 100, but the remittances Government of India is receiving is the highest of remittances any country is receiving from its expatriates working abroad. Now, mind you, these are our passport holders. And the money which they are remitting, they are sending back to their own country. It is an asset for the government for its development. Because, you all know that international trade is in the 6 currencies, internationally recognized by United Nations, known as basket of currencies. So unless until you are exporting your goods to some other country, you will not get dollar or ruble or yen or pound sterling, But once the money coming from the Gulf through their expatriate workers, it is coming in dollar. And this is how we say that, the dollar reserve of India is burgeoning like anything. And with this, in case Government of India wants, it can purchase anything, medical equipments, high power projects, civil aviation, without any fear, because we have lots of foreign, because India is not, the currency of India is not acceptable everywhere. So this is, and in case you are going to IMF and World Bank and you are asking for loan, you have to, give interest also. IMF, you have to give more interest as come to World Bank, which is officially known as IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. But the money which is coming here, you can utilize it for anything. The money which is coming from World Bank or IMF, you will have to submit a project and you will give an undertaking that the money for the purpose it is coming, it will be spent for that purpose only. But here, your hands are free and you can use that for your own specific purposes. Recent addition is that IIT Abu Dhabi, IIT Madras is opening a campus, IIT Abu Dhabi campus, and they will be working on civil nuclear technology. India is dependent on 6 GCC states for 42% of its overall oil imports. For last 30 years, we have not explored any new field of oil. And our demand of oil is increasing. We are taking some oil from Africa. OPEC Plus is now known as, we are also looking to other avenues, because America is no more dependent on Gulf oil, because it is today the largest supplier of oil. It has lots of oil within its own territory. So 42% of our oil is coming from the GCC countries, and alone, I may be corrected, 20% I think is coming alone from Saudi Arabia. With Iran, we have reduced, we were taking lots of oil from Iran, but because of the American sanctions, we have restrained our supply the tune we were taking earlier. With Qatar, we are dependent on natural liquefied gas. During Prime Minister's visit of 2023, we have extended our contract with Qatar for another 25 years, which was going to expire in 2028. So this means that we are on the firm footing, both in terms of there is a demand that sometimes because of the international fluctuations and challenges in the international market, that we should develop some oil reserves, at least 15 days, so that in case there is a international fluctuation price and there are crises, we are in a position to at least have 15-day. Right now, I think, because I was reading 15 days, so our reserve is, I think, 4 or 5 days or something like that. So for that, we need very big tankers, a huge investment, because the 15 days reserve for the whole of country is a lots of oil. But that would help us in sustaining our economy and our continuous, supply of oil during the hour of crisis. We recently have combined air and army exercises collective with UAE and Oman. India is currently diversifying its relations, because sometimes it is said that for how long you will be only giving lip service to the Gulf countries. No, our policies are questioned on two parts. One is that we have not given any kind of work insurance when our workers are working abroad and sending us remittances, which very proudly we are utilizing. Once their job is over, Dubai and some other crucial states have started giving very limited citizenship. But the fact remains that even after serving 30 years or 20 years, ultimately you will have to return back to your own country. But by the time you will be back in your country, you will not in a position to further go and join some other job. We do not have any kind of insurance through the government that once you are going or some mishap is taking place whilst you are working abroad, at least for your family support and other things. During Dubai crash in 2010, there are reports that in one night, there were Indian returnees to Kerala to the tune of 75,000 through special flights. Can you imagine a person who is happily serving abroad with family? One fine morning he is asked, or one night, that suddenly you will have to go back, no job, nothing, and they return back to Kerala. And the government was not having any alternative jobs for them to provide. We, despite the fact that we have a specific ministry, Pravasi Bharatvasi, Indian Overseas Corporation, we have a ministry, we have a dedicated minister. I think government must be thinking on these lines, but this is a concern. During my visits to the Gulf countries, I noticed this. There is also a concern of double taxation. Once you are serving abroad, you think that your money is tax-free. Whatever you are getting in dollar or dirham, you convert it and other things. But there are countries like Iran, which used to take interest on the money one expatriate is spending in Iran, and once it is serving back to India. So it was a kind of a double taxation. It was not in the interest of the worker, Indian worker passport holder working in the Gulf. I think ministerial level talks are going on, and I hope something might have come up. We do not find a report that this is, has removed or, but this is a concern. So in case with Palestine, with which we are very concerned, as we all know that throughout our peace negotiations, but in case we find from Camp David to Oslo 1, Oslo 2, to Y River Agreement, Clinton Agreement, Madrid Peace Conference, we have never seen there was an illusion that America is playing a role of a third party. And third party is, in the conflict resolution, is a party which command respects of both the conflicting parties, which has a power of carrot and stick both. Now, what does it mean by power of carrot and stick? The third party says that, okay, in case you want me to mediate, you will have to listen to me. And I have the power of carrot and stick both. Carrot means gajar, is sweet, is a phrase. Agar aap meri baat manoge, तो I'll give you carrot. In case you will not listen to us, I'll give you a stick. Because I can command both the things. And they are in my control. But for that, a third party also has to be a signatory. We have never seen any document so far in which Americans have committed that they are going for a two-nation solution, or what kind of a solution. They are asking that, okay, in Oslo 1, Oslo 2, a piecemeal arrangement that national elections will take place, local bodies will go to the Palestinians, the finance, defense and other things will remain with Israel. Then 5 years term that in case you will not do any untoward, volatile activity, then we will start considering that, So the situation has come to that level where now more and more countries are in a favor that the only possible solution is a two-state solution. Government of India, in case you read the Palestinian document of Government of India policy, very clearly reiterates that we mean it, and there is no other way that unless until we go. But there was a questioning, people asked that why then India abstained itself when the voting was taking place in General Assembly against Israel. India said that we believe 7 October 2023 attack on Israel by Hamas is a terrorist act. But at the same time, we also believe that the Israel should be mindful while attacking the terrorists because there should not be human casualties. It's very unfortunate that today it is going to be 1 year soon, 7th of October 2024, we would be having 1 year of continuous fighting. More than 45,000 Palestinians, civilians as well as other people were killed. And there is no looking as to, when peace will prevail. The Government of India says in the official document that there is no solution of, casting vote against Israel. What we believe is that we are committed for a peaceful solution. We want that there should be a humanitarian passage for those have been stranded in there. There should be uninterrupted supply, but at the same time, we want that major powers must sit and find a two-state solution. In my understanding, also over the years reading, there is no other way, but the nature will come up, what would it would be, because once there was a partition plan, it was that it was on two parts, that there would be an economic union between the two sides. What would be the nature? These are the nitties and gritties, but the main issue is that the two countries can live side by side, and there should be a two nation in the emerging West Bank and Gaza along with Israel. Now, coming to an end, there are also chances that India should not miss the opportunity. China at the moment is playing very important role in the Gulf. I think there's a time for India also to barge in or to play and show to the world that it has an acceptability of the Arab countries and it can play the role. The recent dialogue between Iran and Saudi Arabia are on behest of China. China is also now bringing to the table both Hamas and Fatah. Because, Fatah is an old organization. Hamas is branded as terrorist by United States of America and the world community even after coming to popularly elected government. So, China is also bringing Hamas and Fatah together. Now, in the event of lifting of sanctions of Iran by United States of America, there will be lots of infrastructure development for which China is looking forward to. They say at least $400-500 billion investment will be there in China, in Iran, because of infrastructure projects and all other projects. We have very close relations with Iran and historical relations also. India should also try and find out this opportunity that, in case this can also be, India can also play a pivotal role once, these sanctions in case are lifted and Iran is again burgeoning as an important country. Now, another thing is that in any event of any peacemaking or security arrangement in the Gulf, India should not be as a passive spectator. It should exert its policy. Because now, like Euromed project, there are certain projects which are where the presence of India is acceptable and it is advisable that India, because for how long you will only do lip service and you will be, reaping the fruits of import of oil and develop the country. We have also some commitment for the people and their prosperity with both our expatriate workers as well as citizens of these Arab countries, because they look forward to India as a close friend, a very close ally, and on the basis of historical relations. So in any peace deal, in any, India should and must play a very important role. As I told you that a string of pearls down from South China Sea to Red Sea and onwards. This is through sea lanes and from Afghanistan to Central Asian countries through road initiative. We are being challenged, from both sides. If you will notice that the Sri Lanka's Hambantota port which is of extreme south of Sri Lanka. And from there, 70% of India's trade through sea goes. That port is being taken on 100-year lease by China. And yesterday only, the new president of JVP party of Sri Lanka, he is also from the left orientation. Now what China is doing, China is the only country in the world right now which has money to invest, whether it is Africa, Central Asia, or to other countries for infrastructure development. We in India, we say that we would like to help you develop infrastructure. We will build your human resources. We will train you, teach you. But India do not have finances to invest. And smaller countries of Africa, smaller countries here and there, they want money. There's some leadership also. So what China is doing, China is giving money to them, loan, and once the countries are not in a position to repay the loan, they convert it into equity. And then by equity, they are now absorbing that land. In Colombo itself, there are 30-kilometer land reclaimed from the sea in the Colombo port, and there is a flag of China going on. So I think the exercises like Quad, this is one of the India's gesture that India is trying to make its headway. And second, I told you that India is trying to protect its own sea lanes so that its ships and trade is free from external, whether it is Houthis attack, whether it is Somalia pirates, or supported by China. So it is taking care of that. Now, second is about Palestine. Naturally, you can see that the kind of leverage Palestine used to have and the support of the Arab people was there earlier. Because when Sadat made a pact in 1978, he went to Israel, and in the Knesset parliament, he addressed that look here, I have brought olive leaves, not the gun in my hand. I have come for peace. So that was the concept of land for peace. Israel says that, okay, we are returning you Sinai Peninsula, which we took in 1967 war. And you recognize us as a state. That was a time. But once Sadat returned back, there's lots of hue and cry in whole of Arab world, and they say that the Sadat put a dagger on the back of Arabs, and he was shot dead. While he was taking, salute of his command, he was shot dead. But after Arab Spring, what damage Arab Spring has done is that it has lost the collective power of Arab countries. Now what is there? That what is happening in Egypt, I am not concerned. What is happening in Yemen, not is our concern. Earlier there used to be a sense of collectivity. Under Nasser, the whole of Arab used to see that there is a leader, a hero, who would salvage their problem. This will get sorted out, the Palestinian problem will be sorted out. Now, and especially after the Iraqi occupation of Kuwait, when Palestinians celebrated it and Iraq gave a false promise to them that now Kuwait is new Palestine, they also lost sympathy within their own fold. So in this scenario where, like Abraham Accord has already taken place, now no country is criticizing. Saudi Arabia, on America is on behest, indirectly talks is going on. You also have I2U2 initiative in 2022. Israel, India, UAE and America. Now they are further strengthening the Abraham Accord. In this situation, India is playing very diplomatically so that it may not say anything where its talk is not heard, and it has a sorry figure. It says that, okay, we are not supporting, we are standing, we are remaining absent. There are two things, either you oppose it, you remain absent, or you support it. So India remained absent, but at the same time they say that our purpose is not to make further cleavages between Israel and Palestine. We want to have a dialogue. India is again want to have dialogue, because in the present scenario, what is possible only, what we have seen in the devastation of the Palestinians are being killed. The only solution is that only through dialogue. And India is again making, maybe the time will come when India will get this opportunity to hold the dialogue, and we are hopeful some peace will prevail. As for Taliban is concerned, Taliban is rejected by United States of America. India need Taliban. India need Afghanistan. India need to address Pakistan and Afghanistan issue through Iran. So at the same time, India, despite the fact that in IAEA, India voted against Iran, but at the same time, you will also remember that in the Islamic Forum Summit Conference, IOC, it was only Iran who supported the stand of India over Kashmir. So there is an understanding between the two countries. And we, in fact, we are in case not making friendly relations with Afghanistan, but because of our old historical cultural relations. And we would like to see the uranium mines in future, in Afghanistan. And we would like to have our trade relations. So we are going very cautiously, and our economic consulate is open and working in Afghanistan. During impact of COVID on India-West Asia relations, now it was definitely at our loss. Now what the firms have done in the Gulf, they first of all, those very senior executive, Indian executive, those who are getting very hefty amount salary, in the name of COVID, they asked them that, okay, we don't require your services. So they asked them to go, and they further hired laborer and fresh recruits on a very meager salary amount. So this is also, and like the new laws which are coming in the Gulf are also telling that the tax is very high in the Gulf. Every year the houses they are hiring, in 11th month they will have to leave that house, and nataqat is another thing, which is Saudization, which is called. This is another thing. So unless and until we impress upon the Gulf countries that India is a friend, very strong friend, is standing by their side in the hours of crisis, it will be problems for Indian workers, and especially after Abraham Accord. They are getting now workers from Israel, technicians from Israel. So the earlier laborer which was going to the Gulf countries, they are not to the tune which they used to go earlier. Now they are asking very highly skilled manpower. So naturally changes are there, and this phenomena is experienced across the globe. Middle East, West Asia is not only the exception. With these remarks, I'm thankful that you have very patience hearing, despite that it's getting very hot inside, and there's no fans also. And I hope that I could make some sense, in your understanding relating to India, West Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this comprehensive address, sir. Sir said, the politics of a region and India's policy in a particular region cannot be understood in isolation. It is important to understand India's positions, India's policies, India's foreign policy holistically across the world. As Sir said, India's foreign policy has progressed significantly, and rightly so. There was a time when, like Sir said, we imported PL 480. It was a huge embarrassment for an independent India, and to today, where we stand to being the food basket of the we aspire to being the food basket of the Middle East through the Middle East food security corridor. So India has certainly progressed significantly in its foreign policy. We have shifted from an ideological position of non-alignment, like Sir said, to a more pragmatic strategic autonomy, and like Sir also mentioned, India's role in Quad, SAARC, BRICS, G20, ASEAN. India serves as a key bridge both between the global south and countries of the global north. We have played a very critical and crucial role in the Ukraine war. We maintained our stance for peace while also ensuring our own interest in importing oil from both Ukraine and Russia, and this against the Western interference in our own foreign policy. Sir went on to highlight India's historical relations in Gulf and how it's advancing further. A very important mention of the role of remittances in our foreign policy and how significant it is for our economy as against the loans that we may take from IMF or World Bank. And since we get that remittance, we also need to ensure the security of our people abroad through the Pravasi Bharati Ministry, a very important point that Sir mentioned, the opening of IIT campuses and the expanding of our relations in the Gulf, the labor, trade, energy relations. And like Sir very rightly pointed out, we need to diplomatically assert ourselves in the region with China, which was earlier called a sleeping dragon, now asserting itself beyond its region, beyond East Asia, well into West Asia. And also, in concern to the burning issue in West Asia right now, India does stand with the two-state solution. We are for peace. I may now request Professor Javed Iqbal, sir, to please present the vote of thanks.
I take this opportunity to convey my thanks to Professor Mohammad Gulrez, the former Vice Chancellor of AMU and currently is also a professor in the department, for this brilliant lecture, which I am sure has benefited our faculty members, our research scholars, our master's student, and our new course which we have started, our undergraduate student, BA International Studies student. Thank you, sir, for your brilliant exposition, and you have touched upon a diverse range of topics. It is confined not just to West Asia, but to other regions as well. And those who have joined online, I'm sure they would also have benefited much from your understanding of international relations. Next, I would like to thank the Dean and Chairman, Professor Muhammad Azhar, for his initiative in organizing this lecture at a very short notice. And our young faculty members, Dr. Aziz, Dr. Tariq, and Dr. Sana, Dr. Zia, Dr. Imtiaz, all of them have worked tirelessly. And last but not the least, I would like to thank Mr. Obaid, coordinator, who is also a research scholar in our department, Ms. Ronak. She is the moderator who has been moderating this session. They have been working tirelessly for the last 4 or 5 days to make this program a success. Thank you all, and we hope we will have more such opportunities to interact in the future. Thank you.